Hello and welcome to Mediumship Matters with me, Hannah McIntyre. How are you doing? And I have got a listener question here that comes from the wonderful Kim. And Kim says, "Hi Hannah, I was recently fortunate enough to be chosen for a free psychometry reading. I asked a question and sent off the photo of the object I hoped could be read. It took a month or so before I received the reading and the answer to my question. At the time I'd asked the question, I was strongly favouring one solution number one, and was hoping to be told it was the right thing to do. However, after I'd asked my question, in the month or so that I was waiting for the answer, I did some more research, thinking and discussing with friends and family, and I realised that solution number one was quite risky and maybe not a great idea. So I then settled on a completely different plan, solution number two. However, solution number two is not risk-free either. When my reading arrived, the reader said that her guide had told her very strongly that I should try to make solution number one happen. As I decided against doing this, I'm now really conflicted. What's more, on the day the reading arrived, I had several spirit signs, so I feel they really wanted to get my attention. My question relates back to your podcast about frequencies. Is it possible that due to me being very focused on solution number one when I set my intention for the reading, that the reader psychically picked this up, and this is why she suggested solution number one as the best way forward? Or is this an update message through the spirit guide frequency, which is telling me to ditch solution number two and go back to looking at a way to make solution number one work? As my future hinges on what I decide to do about this situation, I really need to get it right, but now I'm totally unsure what to do. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how psychometry works, whether intentions can affect readings, and what to do when a reading gives you an answer you weren't expecting." Oh my God, Kim, I love this question. Now, first things first, this is the problem. I don't know which frequency that reader was tuning into, but I can tell you that if I was doing psychometry, that would be the psychic frequency. You're reading the energy of an object. If you're reading the energy of an object, you're not communicating with spirit guides, you're communicating with the energy of the object, which would be exactly why they picked solution number one. So it's really, really hard without knowing what they were doing, because some people use psychometry psychically to then build a bridge to the spirit world to build a communicator. So it's hard to know. Now, what I think is really interesting here is how much spirit showed you that they were with you when you got the message. So I think they were trying to get your attention. So my take on it is actually that this reader was working psychically, that they weren't communicating with spirit, that their psychic gifts at the moment work clairaudiently, so they are perceiving energy as words. They don't understand that there's different frequencies you can work in, and so because they're perceiving energy as words, they believe it is spirit speaking to them, but it is in fact actually how their brain interprets the energy. It's making it into words, which is a different thing entirely. And so they have gone through that because you were very set on solution one. I think, Kim, you need to absolutely trust your gut and also allow it to unfold. I really want to say this to you. So often we say to spirit, I want to be here. How do I get there? And actually what we have to do is be smaller with it. We keep our focus on the big picture, but we say, Spirit, show me the first step I need to do. Show me the second step I need to do. So sometimes it's not about going all in. And that's important to understand too. There have been paths that I have followed that have unfolded step by step by step by step, rather than in its entirety in one go. For example, a couple of years ago, if you'd asked me if I was going to write a book, I'd have said absolutely no way. And yet I have. And it's had to go through a process to get me there, to this space where actually that is the sole focus of my manifesting at the moment, is getting it off the ground and getting it published and getting it done and it being a success. But 2 years ago, it wasn't even in my horizon. So there's so many different things that we want to head towards, but we have to follow a path to get there. And interestingly, just to be really clear about that, 2 years ago, my focus was this podcast, and it still is. But I understand that a book will help this podcast to reach more people. So it's fulfilling my desire, which 2 years ago was to get more listeners to the podcast, get more people involved in it, get more energy behind it. So it's still doing what I asked it to do, but just in an unexpected deke off. Does that make sense? So I would trust your guts, but I would also be open to it changing. Don't think, well, I've got to follow solution 2 and these are the 10 steps that are going to be solution 2. Do one step of solution 2 and see how it feels and allow that energy into it. Now, intentions can absolutely affect readings, and it's such an interesting thing. We often don't really realise that. Now, especially if you are doing anything with a pendulum. Pendulums they crack me up because people take them and they focus so much on the yes or no answer on them that they forget that actually it's reading in energy. And if they are expanding in energy of a particular direction, the pendulum can't help but move in that direction. For example, I had a lady once that came to me for a reading who had used her pendulum to prove that her husband was cheating on her. He wasn't cheating on her, but she was convinced he was, so the pendulum was saying yes, because the pendulum was being held by her in an energy projected by her of, he's obviously cheating on me. Poor pendulum. What was it supposed to do in that circumstance? So absolutely, sometimes we get too much in the way. And this sort of leads back to law of attraction and the surrender nature of law of attraction, where actually sometimes the best thing you can actually do to get what you want is not try and do anything towards what you want. And just relax, because we build up so much energy of what we think is going to happen and how we think it's going to go, that actually becomes resistance that stops us moving forward. And readings can only give you the energy that is around you. So if you think about your aura and your energy body that surrounds you, and it can roughly reach about as far as your arms can reach all the way around you, roughly. And sometimes when you're doing an aurograph, an aura reading for somebody, you will see energy coming in or leaving, and you will know that stuff is coming up for them. Sometimes when you work with spirit guides, they will make you aware that something is coming up for somebody. But none of these things are set in stone. So when you're doing an aurograph, you are just reading somebody's energy as a snapshot in that moment. When you are reading with a spirit guide, they will say this energy is coming in as an option, but it's up to the sitter whether they take the steps to allow that energy in. You know, when you do psychometry and you do photo readings, it's often fascinating because it can be the moment that photo was taken. So you could get somebody that is a very happy-go-lucky, very positive person, but when you psychometrize their photo, you can feel that they're negative or angry, but it's actually that they just had bad news on the day that the photo was taken. And so you have to sort of navigate your way through that, because you are not communicating with a spirit, you are communicating with a snapshot of energy in a moment. So Kim, in a nutshell, my advice is follow 2, but don't do everything on 2 within the next 3 days because you've got to do it immediately. Do one thing at a time and feel into it. Spirit have shown you that they are with you and around you, so you know that they're guiding you. And the number one place that Spirit guide us is through how we feel. So if you can't get a clear read on that, that is when you down tools, you stop thinking about it, you take a break, and you allow it to unfold naturally. Hope this has helped, and thank you so much for asking this question. I've loved it.